Hey everybody, welcome back. It is the Razzball Fantasy Baseball Podcast. I am Beaton, joined by the handsome fantasy master Lothario himself, Gray Albright. How's it going over there, Gray?
Hey, what's going on, B-Don? What's going on?
Not too much. I feel like we got the full Gray presentation today.
Oh God. Oh, my elbow. I clicked. I saw the pitch clock was winding down and I clicked my mouse really fast. Oh, I think oh boy. I'm glad I don't need my elbow to do a podcast. That's fortunate.
I'm really glad that you didn't have any, reserve players for me, because I was wearing my A's wristband earlier this week and I was worried I was going to get sent down to AAA, Gray. So I'm glad you let me hang around, even though I had the wristband on for a little bit. Appreciate you supporting my style choice.
You know what? No, we're fine here with anti-ownership wristbands, because we don't pay anyone anyway. So
ownership is a loose term,
It's all volunteer. Man, yeah, tough.
Although break. I didn't get my uniform either, Gray. So I don't know if there was a backlog or I thought it might have been sent down because the uniform didn't come in for the show either. I wasn't sure.
That's a question for Rudy.
He does all the fanatics.
That's what I do. Whenever anyone says anything in the comments that I don't feel like answering, I'm like, you know what? That's a Rudy question.
Hey, you have this player here. Oh, that's Rudy. That's Rudy.
Yeah, that's gonna be that's a Rudy question. Sorry. Man. Oh well.
So you started it off the top, Gray. Oh, first thing, before we get into the actual fantasy news, I just want to give everybody in the Raz Slam a warning. The first fab run of the season is on Tuesday. There are very limited fab runs, so make sure you get your pickups in. I'm sure you probably have at least one player that needs to be replaced, because if you don't, I'm coming to your house with a baseball bat and I'm injuring you so that somebody on your team is injured, because it's not fair. It's not fair, Gray.
Yeah, I probably should get rid of most of my team. I should get rid of everyone after Juan Soto, just like from round 2 down. Just it's a bit of a mess, but no one likes to hear about other people's teams. So
yeah, let's go ahead and let's jump on the Wambulance and ride that into Injury Town here, Gray, because that's where we reside now. It's a super fun place where you spend a lot of draft capital and time doing research and finding players you really like, and then as soon as they show promise, they get hurt for the season. I wouldn't recommend living here. I wouldn't even really recommend visiting here, but Spencer Strider is going to be a resident, and potentially for all season, depending on how this second opinion goes, Gray, as he has damage to his UCL and his right elbow.
Yeah, that stinks. Stinks, man. That's a Spencer Strider. Yeah, I mean, it's like I say this in the preseason a lot, that it's like if I draft correctly, which I don't always do, but if I do draft correctly, then the guys who I say to avoid can be healthy and I can still do well in theory. So I don't wish injuries on players who I'm clearly out on. I was clearly out on Spencer Strider. That had more to do with his price in drafts than it had anything else to do. And it's just like, and it's not necessarily, well, it is his price, but it's like, it's pitchers. I mean, it's pitchers' prices when they're going in the top, couple rounds. That I've said this so many times. Pitchers are really unpredictable. Putting aside the fact that ERA, WHIP, and wins are almost entirely out of their control. The ratio is a little less so, but the wins obviously completely so. And ERA a little bit more so because of, fielding. And then, whip a little bit less so because of, depends on the guy's command. But anyway, I don't believe in buying pitchers early, in drafts. And I've said this for so many years now. So I don't have Spencer Strider anywhere. I wouldn't have drafted him because of his price, but I did think he was going to be okay. Like if I can't, be here and say like, oh, I knew this was going to happen. Like no one knew Spencer Strider was going to get injured. When we get to Shane Bieber, I'll have other thoughts on that. But with Spencer Strider specifically, I had no idea that he was going to get injured. That stinks. I mean, I don't want to see it. He's he's fun to watch, even if I don't have him on any fantasy teams. Like I did not wish this on him. But with that said, I mean, a guy throwing 99, 98 miles per hour, I mean, it's not a natural thing for the body to be throwing that hard. Like, he's already had Tommy John surgery once. This would be, if he needs it again, this would be a second. So that's, already big red flags. It's not great. I think with the pitch clock, it feels like it is a confluence of bad things. Like it's not necessarily the pitch clock. It's not necessarily the velocity. We've seen, relievers come in and can throw hard. I think even with the pitch clock, but starters, it's a lot. I mean, it's a lot to be asking people to throw 100 pitches under the duress of the pitch clock and also throwing hard. It's just, and with spin rates and everything. I mean, I think it's just everything combined. It's not like one thing or the other. I don't know if there's really an answer. I was goofing around on Twitter about like, if a guy throws over 95, then it should be an automatic ball called. People were not, necessarily thrilled with my idea. But I mean, there is something to like, at certain point, like they're going to have to tamp down on velocity because there's really like, you either let pitchers use, the sticky, you let them use the sticky tack to get grip on the baseball, or people are, they tamp down on their velocity, or you look at the pitch clock. Like something, I think it's just like a combination of all these things at once is come together, and it's become like, it's a bit of an epidemic. It is not good. It's not. I don't know if there's ever really going to be an answer outside of like pitchers just being more, aware of their bodies and not throwing as hard as possible from the jump. Unfortunately, the big thing is like young pitchers in like, high school and college or whatever, when they're coming up to get noticed, you get noticed by throwing hard. So it's, it's difficult to say like, oh, don't throw hard. You have to ramp up, and you really shouldn't be throwing hard until like age 26 or something. Like it's easy to say that, but it's hard to actually implement that when, people are like, oh, I can throw my way into like $80 million and be set for life and get my family set. And it's like, and you're a 15-year-old and you're able to throw 95, and you're like, I'm doing this to like better my family. I'm gonna change everything for my life. And it's like, I have dreams of being a big leaguer. It's hard to say to that kid, like, yeah, maybe throw like 82 miles per hour. Let's see what happens at that, and then work on your change. So I don't know, man. I don't know if there is an answer, to be honest. But it sucks. It's unfortunate for fantasy with people who drafted Strider. I mean, I don't know. It sucks for them. I feel, it sucks. I wouldn't have done it, as I said, but I can understand the people who did do it, because I mean, he did look about as safe as any other pitcher. Like, to be totally frank, I wouldn't have drafted him, but the people who are doing it, I didn't think they were crazy for doing it. Like, I wasn't like, oh my God, I can't believe you drafted Strider. I was like, I wouldn't do it because pitchers are unpredictable, but I can, if there's any pitcher who's going to be able to be good, you would think it would have been Strider, and now, yeah, it looks bad for him.
Yeah, I mean it's really tough when you lose any early player in the draft, whether that's pitcher, hitter. Our draft philosophies aside, where we wouldn't draft Strider, but it still sucks to see him go down. I mean, he's one of the most, if not the most, electrifying pitcher in the game right now. Like, he's must watch viewing when he throws. He's on, one of the top 2-3 baseball teams in the entire league. Like, this hurts their chances massively because Strider is the Braves ace. He's what they were counting on. So I mean, it's all sorts of damage to the real game, our game. Hopefully, it ends up being okay. There's a reason he's going for a second opinion, but the Braves have kind of said it didn't look good upon initial review. You already mentioned all the reasons people are throwing out, and everybody, seems to believe they know exactly what causes it. I'm with you. I think it's just a combination of things. To get paid, to get signed, you have to throw with velocity. You have to get strikeouts. All that is stuff that hurts the pitchers. Strider himself this offseason mentioned that MLB really wasn't considering the amount of injuries that occurred last year with the rule changes, including the pitch clock, the amount of pitchers on a roster, the pitching change limits, the mound visits. It all may have led to a slower, more methodical type of game for the viewer, but it also might have helped protect pitchers from over pitching, reaching back too early. I mean, if you have to throw a pitch or give up a walk, like, you're going to throw the pitch. It just sucks. I've seen where MLBPA is going to potentially, come after MLB a little bit in regards to some of these rule changes, because I mean, what we saw last year and the start of this year seems pretty clear that the pitch clock may not be everything, but it is certainly not helping the situation here in Atlanta. I assume it's either Bryce Elder or Dylan Dodd that's likely to get the call up. Are you interested in either of them, and in what depth league?
Actually, Alan Wyans was called up. I don't know if he's going to be the permanent replacement, but he was called up initially for the fifth spot on the Braves, and he's actually, it might end up being the third spot on the Braves if Max Fried continues pitching like he is. I wouldn't put it past Max Fried to be headed to the IL at some point too. Which, I mean, I was saying don't draft him either. So I don't know. We'll see. Max Fried did not look good on Saturday. What was I saying? Oh, Alan Wyans is the Braves replacement for right now. I guess if he comes up like in the next week or two after a start by Wyans, and Wyans is sent down, and then Elder's brought up. I guess Elder's kind of interesting, but I mean, he's even getting hit a little bit in the minors. I don't know. It depends on the league. Like NL only, I'm more interested in Elder. Wyans, I mean, NL only, you kind of pick up anyone, but Wyans isn't really even NL only. Like, he doesn't. Wyans is like a 89-mile-per-hour guy. Here we are talking about velocity, but 89 miles per. Like, guys can throw like 94, 95. Okay, don't throw 89 though. It's like you have this real narrow, like, it's like here's what you can do. Just throw 95 miles per hour. Don't throw 96 or 89. Anyway, Wyans isn't good. Elder's kind of interesting if he gets called up, but he hasn't been called up, so we'll see on that. Dylan Dodd is a little bit more interesting too, but he hasn't been called up yet, so we'll see. It depends on who gets called up after Wyans. I think Wyans is just a temporary replacement because he happened to be on the same day. He was throwing on the same day as Strider, so he was called up because his schedule fit into the rotation. But I don't know how long that's going to last.
Yeah, I don't know that he's even going to get the Strider start. I think he may just be an arm for them until it's time for Strider start. But yeah, we'll have to monitor that. I would think if you're in an NL only, I would go ahead and add Elder. I think he's probably first up, and then if Elder's owned or you don't get him, I think Dodd is probably the next guy in line. I don't see Wynan sticking around. Again, I think when Strider's spot comes up, he gets sent back down. He has options, as do Elder and Dodd. So moving them around and playing with them minors to majors isn't really going to change anything in regards to their eligibility at all. Next injury up is Shane Bieber. He's going for Tommy John surgery. It's already been stated. He was the number one pitcher on the player radar, Gray. Now in the last 4 seasons, he's had a shoulder issue, a right forearm issue last year, and then TJ, which you could say maybe was connected to the forearm issue last year. Maybe not. Well, it all kind of maybe seems connected. I mean, really what sucks here, Gray, other than having the number one pitcher go out, he as long as Shane Bieber feels like he's been around, he's just going to be a free agent next year. So after all this time, he's finally going to be a free agent. Now he has to go for TJ, and who knows what kind of offer he's going to get.
Yeah, that's true. That does stink. I didn't realize that. That actually, now you say that his going for becoming a free agent, that was probably why he was even pitching this year, because like he had elbow issues. He was on a 60-day IL last year because of his elbow. That was also like I saw people saying with Shane Bieber, like, one prominent news site, I won't say who it is, they were like, oh wow, Shane Bieber, that came out of nowhere. And on the same page of the news about them saying, wow, that came out of nowhere, on the same page, if you scroll down, it said how he had an elbow injury last year and was out for 2 months. So it's like, was it completely out of nowhere? I mean, again, it's like, I don't want to see players get injured, but was the Shane Bieber injury out of nowhere when he missed so much time last year with an elbow issue? I mean, it doesn't feel out of nowhere, to be honest. It sucks. I mean, that stinks. I feel like with Shane Bieber, specifically, for him, it really sucks now that you mentioned that his free agency was coming up. That must have been why he was even trying to pitch this year, because last year was probably, if I can totally infer out of basically just like in the last 5 minutes of information, he was probably told last year that he needs Tommy John, and they were probably like, why don't you rehab? Because, this way you can then be a free agent next year. And him and his people, his agent and his, or whoever his people are, probably came together and was like, yeah, rehab and then pitch next year, and then we'll have a free agency. But yeah, unfortunately, obviously that didn't work, which is a shame. He was pitching well. So yeah, that stinks. Wow, this is a real bummer of a podcast. Like, wow. Okay, great. Yeah, that stinks. Yeah, That's it, I guess.
Yeah, let's just go. I'm gonna cry and sob into my pillow. It's gonna be an amazing rest of the day after this podcast, Gray. I can't wait to get that going. Yeah, I mean, he had gone 12 innings, hadn't given up a run, he had 20 strikeouts, 1 walk. Everything was going great. I like Shane Bieber more than you. I will give you credit. You had kind of brought up the injury concerns. I basically said, yeah, they're concerns, but he's not expensive, and there's definitely a possibility for bounce back. It looks like that was coming around, but just we're not going to get to see it fully. We'll have to wait for about 2 years to see what he looks like whenever he signs somewhere, probably on a 1-year prove it deal or a 2-year prove it deal type of thing. Really, really crappy situation. I guess at least he's not on my number 2 overall ranked Raz Slam team. So that's at least positive.
I saw the actually you doing really well on Razzslam. I saw that, and I would not be shocked to see you in the top 5 overall at the end of the year, because I honestly don't think you can move in Razzslam at all. After the first day, the standings are locked and you cannot move again. Like, that's
You're
it.
either good or
You're either good or you're not good. Like, it doesn't even matter who's on your team.
Yeah, I have Mookie and Spencer Steer, so they've helped really drive the train early.
Doesn't matter. You're winning it. It doesn't
I'm
matter.
taking it all home. Yeah, let's do it, Greg. Moving on. We're gonna just keep pounding the injuries so we can get through them and talk about maybe something positive at some point in this podcast. But Eury Perez, we hadn't seen him this year. He had started the year on the 15-day IL. He had a finger issue in spring training. Then he had an elbow issue with inflammation. They were trying to build it back up, knock down the inflammation. He went through a bullpen, and now he's going to have Tommy John surgery at 20 years old.
Yeah, that stinks too. I don't know off the top of my head if this is his first Tommy John. I would assume so, since he's so young. Hopefully. Yeah, I mean, it stinks, obviously. But I feel like at this point, every pitcher has Tommy John surgery, so he's getting it out of the way. I don't know. I'm trying to put a positive spin on this. Yeah, it stinks. I mean, honestly, it's not good. Eury Perez, but he is young. He should come back at if he's back at 22, 23, he can still have a really good career after Tommy John surgery. So yeah, we'll see him again in 15 to 18 months.
Yeah, maybe he'll come back throwing your magic 95 number, Greg.
Yeah, exactly. Don't throw 96 and don't throw 89. So you have 6 degrees in there you could throw somewhere.
So speaking of velocity and injuries, there's somebody that people have, I think I saw yourself included, possibly tagging the next possible injury case in Kevin Gausman. People were talking about his velocity at the last start. I saw he was shown throwing 85-mile-an-hour fastball. Yeah. I cannot find a single record that shows
that's
he threw an 85-mile-an-hour fastball.
85.9 miles per hour fastball was.
Yeah, I think that was a changeup. I don't think that was a fastball.
Yeah, no, I'm well.
I can't find a single record that shows him throwing an 85-mile-an-hour fastball.
Yeah, hopefully it was a changeup. I'll say hopefully. Yeah, no, he was throwing really. I think he was between 85 and 87 on his fastball, and then it went up a little bit as the game went on. But yeah, I don't know, man. He was also this. Kevin Gausman. It's not like this is not coming out of nowhere. I mean, he did have a shoulder issue in spring training, and he was shut down, and then he had to slowly build back up. So, I mean, hopefully, I actually have Kevin Gausman in leagues, so hopefully he is fine. I'm not wishing this on people. I'm hoping Kevin Gausman's fine, but he looked anything but fine on Saturday versus the Yankees. I mean, he looked awful. Let's be honest. He looked really bad. Whether his velocity was 85 or not is probably a moot point. It doesn't really matter if he was. I mean, he was just so bad, so off. But hopefully it's not injury related. Hopefully he just had, bad command and he's going to be fine. But by the time this podcast comes out, I feel like he's going to be injured. I don't know. I feel like we're going to hear something about Kevin Gausman, but we'll see. I don't know. I have no idea.
All right. Well, I'm going to be the bright, sunny person here and say he's not going to be injured. The velocity was down slightly. He was throwing like 92, 93 on the fastball. At least that's what's recorded. The splitter was down to 83. So he'd lost 2-3 miles an hour. That's not what you really want to see. But in a start like this where everything was going bad and he made it like an inning, I'm just going to take that as a bad start and really hope and pray he's not the next on the injury list. Trevor Story, offensive player we could talk about that has injury problems. Great. He has a dislocated shoulder. I mean, again, we don't really wish injury upon anybody, but if you believe Trevor Story was going to stay healthy, I have some stuff in the back of my car I'm ready to sell you.
You have a bridge in the back of your car. Wow. That sounds amazing. Is it a suspension bridge? What kind of bridge do you have? Oh man, and how big is your car? Yeah. I mean, Trevor Story's injured. Well, and also Taco Bell gives you diarrhea. I mean, okay, yeah, water's wet. I mean, okay, yeah.
Are you interested in his back or his replacement, David Hamilton, at all, Gray?
No, I think hopefully Grisham is back soon. Grisham has been out for so long with like what sounded like a not that major of an injury. No, I'm not really. David Hamilton's interesting in AL only, obviously. He's a speed guy, but other than that, yeah, I mean, I guess if you're hurting for steals in a mixed league, maybe you look at him, but yeah, I'm not super interested now.
Okay, and it seems like Vaughn Grissom should be heading to a rehab assignment this week, so we could see him back as the start of next week. Hopefully, fingers crossed, because I do have shares of Vaughn Grissom as well. Because I saw this Trevor Story opening coming at some point.
Yeah.
All right, Gray. Let's move on to something a little bit more positive here. Let's talk about Player Rater. It's never too early to jump in and see what the old Player Rater is saying about people. Let's do this kind of a buy, sell, hold type of situation, whether you're believing them. I won't run you through the Anchorman game. I don't want to get it our listeners too excited that they're going to get a game every week. So we're just going to do a little more simple buy, sell, hold type of discussion here. Number one is Mookie Betts. I mean, he has 11 games, 52 plate appearances, 5 home runs, stolen base, 15 runs, 11 RBIs. He's hitting 415, 538, 902. He is leading my RazzSlam team. I don't think there's really anything to say here. Mookie Betts is good. That's pretty much it, right?
Yeah, no, totally. I kind of wish Mookie Betts. It's like I don't want to say he feels like a kind of guy where I don't want to say too many nice things and talk about how I have him on teams and those teams are doing well, and I don't want to jinx anything. I kind of don't want to even talk about Mookie Betts because he's doing so well. I'm like, just let him do well. Don't jinx him. Just let him do his thing. You don't have to talk about it. Don't talk about it. Don't ruin anything. I mean, he looks incredible. He looks so good. I mean, it's also like it can't hurt being in front of Ohtani, like he's gonna see all kinds of good pitches. His walks are over 20% as we record this. I mean, I love Mookie Betts, man. Let's move on before we change something.
Yeah, well, I mean, with that thought in mind, can we just not talk about the next guy then? Because I have him everywhere. That is Spencer Steer. He has 8 games, 34 plate appearances, 3 home runs, 2 stolen bases, 8 runs, 12 RBIs. He's hitting 448, 529, 897, and I have him everywhere, Gray. So let's just move on.
I have Spencer Steer too. We if nothing else, we said to people, draft Spencer Steer. Like, we said it a lot because he was going for way too cheap in drafts. And it was so obvious because, like, if you look at his previous year and why I don't even think we can jinx him. Why I don't think our powers of jinxing can even do it. I'm not even. You know what? I just jinxed it.
You just ruined it. Like, literally just ruined it.
No. You know why I don't think I'm able to jinx him? Because Spencer Steer was great last year. He was good already. That was why I never really understood the people looking at Spencer Steer at the draft season and being like, yeah, probably like around 110 overall. And it's like, really? Because he was already much better than that last year. Like, he had 23 homers, 15 steals, and hit 271 last year with just under a 21% strikeout rate and an over 10% walk rate. Like, Spencer Steer was good already. It's not like we were like hoping and praying that Spencer Steer would like suddenly become good this year. It was like, it was already there. And he played every day last year. He played 156 games. Like, it wasn't like he was a player that had obvious platoon worries. Like, there was no reason why people weren't drafting Spencer Steer, which we said repeatedly in the preseason. Like, we talked about Spencer Steer a lot. I know for a fact. I loved him. You loved him. It was like Spencer Steer was the guy to get. If you didn't get him, it's kind of on you. It's your fault.
Yeah, I mean, if you followed either of our rankings, you drafted him rounds early. Like, not like a little bit early. You drafted him like where people were like, wait, did you mean to make that pick? You're like, yes, I meant to make that pick. Why isn't he taken already? I mean, I had him 40th overall, Gray, and he's going 80 to like 120 most draft season. It never felt right to me. So yeah, I love Spencer Steer. Please, fingers crossed, stay healthy, keep just mashing the ball. Teoscar Hernandez, he's up next at number 3, 11 games, 48 plate appearances, 4 home runs, 1 stolen base, 10 runs, 4 RBIs, 273, 333, 591. Helped a little bit by the extra games that the Dodgers have played, but he's off to a great start. I mean, we've seen Teoscar have good seasons. Is this the breakout that we kind of talked about preseason? He never seems to be the sum of the parts, or is this just, another good run from Teoscar and he'll be Teoscar?
Yeah, I think Teoscar, in retrospect, at the end of this year, we're going to look back and we're going to be like, you know what? He was getting drafted too low considering the lineup he's sitting in. Like, it would be really hard for him not to get 100 RBIs in that Dodgers lineup, hitting 5th or wherever he is in the lineup, 5th or 6th. I mean, there's no reason why he won't get 100 RBIs. He's probably gonna touch like 80 to 85 runs, and that's even assuming his power comes down a little bit. Right now it's he's probably on pace for like 34 homers, 34 to 36 homers. And, for that to come down a little bit and for him to end up like around 27 homers, which is where he always ends up, at least usually he's in the 27 homer range. So even if he has only 27 homers, he's still going to get all those runs and RBIs I talked about. And he's not really terrible on average. Like, he's a career 261 hitter over 822 games in his career. And he's also like, probably a 10 steal guy. So 27 homers, 10 steals, 260 plus those runs and RBIs. It's going to be hard to not see at least top 75 overall value. And he was going going too late in drafts, which like we mentioned Spencer Steer a lot. I don't think we really talked about Teoscar. It was pretty obvious that Teoscar was going too late. Like even if he's like neutral on luck, he's better than where he was going in drafts. And I didn't draft him anywhere. And that's, bad on me because it was obvious that he was going to be valuable. Is he going to be a top, 10 player on the player rater? No, I don't think so. He's not going to have the steals. And right now he's doing, really like the best chance he has is if he goes off on power and gets to like 40 plus homers. But I don't see that happening. That's probably a bit much for him. So he's probably going to be around like a top 75 to top 50 overall player on the player rater at the end of the year, which is really good and much better than where he was getting drafted. So yeah, I like Teoscar. I just, right now he's overperforming a little bit.
Yeah, I would agree. But he's going to be very, very good, very solid. Just, maybe not third player overall. Player rater good. Next up at number 4 is Ketel Marte in 9 games. He has 3 home runs, a stolen base, 11 runs, 7 RBIs. He's hitting 368, 409, 684. So far, Bo Bichette, 75 picks later, is off to a good start. How's Bo Bichette start doing? Is he in the 670s of the player rater or something like that?
Oh man. So anyway, Ketel Marte, he had a really good first half last year. So, at this point, I'm going to say he's kind of a first half player. Like his second half last year, while not terrible, he definitely fell off a little bit from his first half. So I'm going to say he's like, he gets out to a hot start and then he cools off a little bit as the season goes on. So, I mean, he's fine. I think he's probably overperforming a bit on, a bit. I mean, he's hitting 368 as of the recording of this. So he's overperforming by a lot. He's like, he's fine. Later, I think he's probably like a barely 100 to, again, he was probably going a little bit later in drafts than he should have been. He's probably, I underestimated Ketel Marte a little bit in the preseason. He's probably not as bad as I thought. Is he Bo Bichette? I don't know. Let's move on.
Oh yeah, great. All right, we'll move on then. Next up is Lourdes Gurriel Jr. He has 9 games, 43 plate appearances, 3 home runs, 1 stolen base, 9 runs, 11 RBIs, 316, 395, 605. I mean, all these guys we're going to talk about, their averages are going to be ridiculous. That's what's propelling them this the point right now, Gray. But Gurriel, I mean, I feel like, we didn't talk about him a lot, but I do think we mentioned him, kind of when we were going through outfielders as like a guy that just gets forgotten about, despite hitting, in the right part of lineups and not being a bad player at any point, really.
Right. Yeah, no, completely. Yeah, he was definitely a guy we talked about in the preseason, whereas like, obviously he's not a top 10 overall guy, but he is a guy who was underrated in the preseason. I think I actually I included him in like some of the guys to target. Like he was going way too late. It was obvious. I mean, he's probably like a 22-ish homer guy with not terrible average, like in that Bo Bichette range of players. Is his stats that different than Bo Bichette? Who's to say, really? Yeah, I mean, he's probably like a 22 homer, 5 steal, 280 hitter, which isn't bad. I mean, there's a place for that on fantasy teams. Right now, he's doing a little bit better than you probably should be expecting, but there's no reason why he can't be valuable all year as like a back end outfielder on your fantasy. Like even in a 12-team mixed league, he's a solid, probably fourth outfielder.
Yeah, I think that. I mean, if you got him as your fourth outfielder, I think you're feeling very good right now, and you should. I mean, like we said, he's going to give you all that value, and probably a little bit even on top of that. I mean, when we're talking about power, obviously these guys have gotten off to a good start. Almost any hitter who gets to mid-20s home runs has at least one strong month where they put up like 7 home runs. I wouldn't take a whole lot away from early power surges unless there's something more to look at, which is kind of potentially the case for the next guy on this list, which is Michael Conforto. 9 games, 37 plate appearances. He has 3 home runs, 8 RBIs, 8 runs, 10 RBIs. He's hitting 382, 432, 765. And I mean, his contact numbers look better than they ever have. And he was always kind of one of those guys that people, thought could grow into this kind of thing if he could stay healthy. I mean, he might actually be healthy finally, Gray, because the hard hit is the best of his career. The exit velocity is the best of his career. The launch angle is up. Like everything is looking a lot better than it has in recent years for Michael Conforto.
Yeah, I would agree with that. I think with Conforto, I mean, the problem is for me, well, his BABIP is insane. So his average is obviously going to come down a lot. I think he's hitting 380, which is, ludicrous, obviously, but he's probably close to a 240 hitter. So, and I also like the shoulder, like the thing with Conforto is his shoulder was his issue. And right now it must be feeling okay. And he's doing well, but 6 months is a long time for him to stay healthy. If he gets if he has any sort of like nagging injury come June, July, it's all gonna go away, all his power. So I feel like we're gonna Conforto is a sell if that's even possible. If not, he's a hold until he falls off or his shoulder starts barking. Until we see different, I'm gonna guess that he is just a hot bat for right now, and he's gonna trail off. Like the projections have him like he has 3 homers as of right now, and the projections have him hitting like 17 more. And that even feels a little bit high. Like if he gets to 20 homers, I feel like that's a success for him. I wouldn't expect it.
Yeah, I mean, I think if you grabbed him off of free agency, you enjoy the ride. I think while he's healthy, I would project him higher than kind of the 240 he's shown in the last few years. Because again, the numbers just look a lot better than what we've seen. But how long that health stays is the reason I wouldn't be buying him. And yeah, I mean, if you could sell him for a useful piece, go ahead. But more than likely, he is just a hold candidate because I don't think people are really going to be reaching out to trade for Michael Conforto. Next up is Jarren Duran, 9 games, 41 plate appearances. He has a homer, 6 stolen bases, 5 and 5, 378, 439, and 459. Jarren Duran has gotten off to a great start, and maybe most importantly, Gray, he is leading off versus righties and lefties.
Yep. Yeah. Yeah, like in the preseason, it felt pretty obvious that he was going to be the guy, assuming healthy. His foot was bothering him early in spring training. But yeah, I mean, he looks like their go-to guy, their leadoff, 12 homer, 35 steals, 270 average. Like that's really valuable. So yeah, I like Duran a lot. Whether or not he's I probably put him closer to like I could see him actually being a top 40 ish player rater guy, like, which is higher than I was saying for some of the other guys, because he does, the speed really helps, and he isn't a guy who strikes out a ton. Like, he's a really solid leadoff guy. I like Duran a lot. I would probably say he's got an outside chance of being like a top 25 guy, even. Like, if he can get to like 15 homers and steal the way he's capable of, like, the thing with the pitch clock is, like, he can steal anywhere from like 25 bags to like 45 bags. It wouldn't be shocking. It's just a matter of how much he wants to steal. So if he gets like, 12 homers and 45 steals, you're basically looking at CJ Abrams,
Yeah, I mean, it's definitely possible. I will admit I had him a little bit lower in my rankings just because I didn't think he was going to play versus lefties. And so platoon bats generally take a decent hit. And then I wasn't sure about the hit tool, but everything seems to be working for him right now. And, as long as they're going to leave him up there, it's hard to really say anything negative about him. The average is going to come down, like we said about all these guys, but you're right. I mean, the speed could be enough just to carry his fantasy value. So between speed and runs, that's going to be a nice combo there for Duran. Our boy is up next. That is Adolis Garcia. 8 games, 37 plate appearances, 4 home runs, stolen base, 6 runs, 11 RBIs, 265, 297, 647. I mean, this just in, Adolis Garcia is good.
It's funny that it's like Adolis Garcia goes through all the preseason and everyone's like, it's like you have to twist people's arms to draft Adolis Garcia during the preseason. And then immediately after opening day, people are like, wow, Adolis Garcia is really good. Like, yeah, dude, I know he's good. I don't know why it's so hard for people to understand Adolis Garcia is good. I mean, he is like, he's not only like he's in a good lineup, good park. He hits for, good power. He can steal some bags. Like, it's so obvious. I don't know. So there's a mental block with Adolis Garcia for some reason.
Yeah, we'll figure that out one of these days, Gray. One of these days. Marcell Ozuna is up next. He has 7 games, 32 plate appearances, 4 home runs, 6 runs, 10 RBIs, 323, 344, and 774. I feel like Ozuna really kind of got pushed down drafts as well. He's older. Maybe that was part of it. Maybe there's a playing time thing there potentially, but he's come out of the gates just hitting. I mean, this is kind of what Ozuna does, though. He just hits the ball.
Yeah. He was kind of like, I mean, I think, the no position eligibility hurts a little bit, but like, he was kind of like a Teoscar in a lot of ways, where it's like, he's obviously going to hit for power, and he's in a lineup that's going to give him 80 plus runs and at least 100 RBIs, like, it's like he can only be so bad in that lineup, assuming he's healthy, which, there was no reason to think he wasn't healthy. So yeah, I got him in my labor league for $1 in an auction. I got him for $1, and I was like, really? He seems like he's worth more than $1. Like, I just threw him out for $1, and it was just like crickets in the room. I'm like, oh, okay, all right. Anyway.
Yeah, I don't know what happened there. Maybe it was a weird one where people weren't looking at him, or the utility thing kind of throws him off in certain drafts. But yeah, I mean, it seems like he is producing, and I mean, he's not going to hit 323, but he'll do what Marcell Ozuna does, which is hit for power, and an average that won't absolutely murder you. Next up is Tyler O'Neill. 8 games, 32 plate appearances, 4 home runs, 1 stolen base, 9 runs, 4 RBIs. He's hitting 360, 500, 840. I will admit I did not really like Tyler O'Neill. He has burned me enough in my life already that I couldn't really buy in. And of course, I might have been wrong.
Yeah, you might have been, but in your defense, I did like Tyler O'Neill, but in your defense, you got a long season to go for Tyler O'Neill. Like, you watch him in the field and you're like, did he just do a cartwheel after he threw the ball? Because I don't know if that's really like a thing a guy who's always injured should be doing. That doesn't feel like a smart move. So yeah, I like Tyler O'Neill more than you, because he does have, I mean, he's got crazy power. At Fenway, like, for a righty, Fenway, even if he's not hitting homers, I mean, he can hit doinks off the wall for days and hit 20 points higher than his projected average, because of his BABIP's going to be so high. Like, if he doesn't have a 300 BABIP in like home games, like, I would be shocked. If there's a place to bet that, go and bet it, because there's no way he has a BABIP under 300. Like, all he has to do is hit like lazy fly balls to the outfield and pull them, and he's gonna have a double. So yeah, I like Tyler O'Neill a lot. He has to stay healthy though. So I could actually see, like, it's early right now, but if he's still healthy and doing well in like May, June, I could potentially see a sell when it comes down to it. Once you've, established that he's healthy, because at any point he can not be healthy.
Yeah, I'm just gonna double down and say he's a sell. That way, if it goes all wrong, I'll just be completely wrong on Tyler O'Neill, Gray.
No back.
But that way, yeah, at least I'm just being consistent. Then, I'm just still out on Tyler O'Neill. Yeah. The injuries, the inconsistency, it all just bugs me. So yeah, that's what I'm just gonna stick with for now, Gray. None of the numbers really look any different than anything he's done in the past. So I don't really see any changes here. Real quick, we're going to move to pitchers, but real quick, 11 through 15 was Ohtani, Tatis, Seiya Suzuki, Taylor Ward, and Bobby Witt Jr. I think the only ones that really maybe stand out are Seiya and Taylor Ward. I mean, Seiya was a guy that a lot of people liked. Even as a Cubs fan, I don't know that I necessarily see him keeping up this level of production, but I'm happy to see it. Taylor Ward, kind of in that same bucket. Like, I don't expect either of them to be this good, that long, but they should be productive members. And we talked about that with both of them, I think. And we got to Ward. I mean, I think we basically said, like, I don't know what happened to the hype from last year, but it's completely gone for no reason.
Yeah, no, totally. I wrote a sleeper post for Taylor Ward last year. I loved Taylor Ward going into last year, and then, he burned people, but there was really no reason to not like him again. I mean, it was a fluky thing last year. He got hit in the face by a pitch. I mean,
yeah, it wasn't his fault. He didn't do anything wrong.
I know. So I probably should have drafted him more aggressively, even myself. So I'm, as guilty as most people. I was out just, because for no reason, really. It didn't make any sense. Like, it didn't. I'll be honest, it made no sense.
I mean, you also just can't. I mean, you can't draft everybody. At some point, your outfield's full, or you're drafting something else. I mean, there's any number of things that happen in the draft where you don't end up with certain players. But yeah, I mean, it's just certain guys. You're like, yeah, there's value there. Whether you can fit them on your roster or not, sometimes you can, sometimes you can't. Let's move on to pitchers, Gray. Let's talk about the top 10 there. We already talked about number 1 and Shane Bieber, so let's just move on before I start crying. Number 2 is Brady Singer. This is making me happy because I have a lot of shares of him. 13 1/3 inning pitch this year. He has 1 earned run, a 0.68 ERA, 0.53 WHIP. He has 14 strikeouts and 2 walks. So far, so good with the 4-seam and sweeper experiment for Brady Singer, right?
Yeah, no, completely. He's also Brady Singer. I should just go back and draft my sleepers from last year, because Brady Singer and Taylor Ward were 2 guys I was really excited about. And then for whatever reason, Brady Singer, he was terrible last year. So that isn't necessarily completely on me not going back in. You burned me once, burn me once, shame on you. Actually be good the second time, shame on you again. it's always shame on
all
you.
his fault. Yeah.
It's always shame on you. Brady Singer was like, God, I really liked him going into last year. Him and Alek Manoah. Alek Manoah is still bad though, so good for him. Good for him for being consistently bad. Okay, so yeah, Brady Singer. I mean, like you mentioned, he's like, he's not, I don't know if he's this good. Okay. So I don't know about that. But if he's got excellent command, which he does, see, this is what, like I was saying this a lot in the preseason. Like if a guy has good command, I'm really interested right now because the pitch clock adds another element here where if a guy puts someone on first base, it can easily turn into a triple because of the pitch clock. So he's got good command and he's really shown that well this year so far. Brady Singer's probably like right now he's around a 9.5 K per nine. He's probably closer to like an 8.7. So he's not quite the strikeout pitcher you're seeing, but he's also good command. If he has an under 2 walk rate, he can't be that bad. I mean, and it's a good park. Like I think he can be, probably a top, I want to say top 40 to top 40 starter. It's top 30 to top 40 starter. He can be with the command. If as long as he keeps the command and he pitches, even in home games alone, like it's worth it. Like he's probably worth picking up in every league, even the shallowest of leagues. The people who are listening who, are in 10-team mixed leagues. There's no reason why Brady Singer should be unrostered as of right now.
Yeah, I mean, I think he needs to be rostered in every league. I think top 40 is probably fair for where we're looking at him ending up. I don't see the K's being maintaining this 29% rate he currently has. And I mean, Kansas City's looked good out of the gate, but I don't know that they're going to be a team that's going to pile up the wins for him either. So both of those things kind of limit how far he can go. And for record, like Jordan Montgomery was 40 last year. Like that's a really good pitcher.
Yeah, and actually Jordan Montgomery was a good example. I was going to say, or Chris Bassett, like what you expect from Chris Bassett could be what Brady Singer is this year. What you expect from Jordan Montgomery could be what Brady Singer is. Like, like not necessarily elite Ks, but a solid pitcher that you're more than willing to start against just about everyone.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think he does have some upside for K's. Just not 29% necessarily. Next up is another longtime favorite of mine, Gray. Reid Detmers. We talked about the Angels rotation and just like the look of it was like I want everybody on it, and at the same time I don't want anybody on it. Apparently we should have wanted Reid Detmers because he has 11 innings, 2 earned runs. He has a 1.64 ERA, 0.82 WHIP, 19 strikeouts, 4 walks. Is it finally Detmers season? Is it time?
I don't know, man. Maybe. All right, I'll say maybe. But the thing is, like, I went back and looked at his game log from last year, and he had a start early on in the season where he went 5 2/3 and struck out 12 guys. And it looked like that could have been the Reid Detmers breakout last year. And then that just dissolved as every season has for him. So I don't know. I mean, it could be. Like someone asked me in the comments, like, is this the Reid Detmers breakout? And I'm like, I don't know. I mean, maybe. But we've seen really excellent starts from him before. With that said, there's no reason why you shouldn't pick him up. I mean, it's like, let him break out on your team. Don't let him break out on someone else's team. I'm more than willing to pick up Reid Detmers. Am I willing to go on the record and say this is his breakout? No. I mean, after 11 innings, who knows? I have no clue. I mean, it looks good, though. As of right now, he looks great. So hopefully.
Yeah, and for what it's worth, like he's battled different injuries, and last year he had some velocity drops. So we'll have to see what happens with Reid Detmers throughout the course of the season. But I've always liked him. He's still only 24 years old. Like, there's definitely some possibility that this is the breakout. But I'm also not comfortable, as you mentioned, I'm not comfortable saying it's time. There's nothing in the numbers that necessarily says something massive has changed. So we'll wait and see on Reid Detmers. Cody Bradford, he has 12 and 2/3 innings, 2.13 ERA, 0.47 WHIP, 10 strikeouts, 1 walk. He's added a curve. He got rid of the slider completely and is barely throwing his cutter. So there is a clear pitch mix change here, Gray. Can I interest you in Cody Bradford?
Yeah, I mean, for a back end fantasy starter, because the command is really good, and he's always had excellent command, so that's half the battle. So if he's gonna have excellent command and like a 7.5 K per nine, I mean, it's not great. Like, I don't think like he's not gonna be probably under 4 on his ERA. So he's not going to be great, but he's definitely going to have starts where he's worthwhile in deeper mixed leagues. He's not a shallow mixed league guy, though. I wouldn't go near him in a 10 team or even a 12 team mixed league. He's a streamer in most of those mixed leagues.
All right. Would you take his teammates, John Gray and Dane Dunning, over him?
Yes.
Okay. So I think that gives people an idea of where you have Bradford. It's really in the streamer category right now until we maybe see a little bit more. But yeah, the pitch mix change does give us a little bit of hope, at least. Ronel Blanco, he had his first start, 9-inning, no-hitter, Gray, 7 strikeouts, 2 walks.
Just as everyone predicted.
A lot of changeups. The drop looks better than it has before. I didn't watch the game, but I watched kind of the replay here of him throwing, and I mean the change looked really good in this one. I don't know if it was just one of those days and everything is working, but if these adjustments to the changeup are sticking around, I could get into some Ronel Blanco shares.
Yeah, I mean, the thing is with like a no-hitter, like unless it's a really bizarre no-hitter, the guy's going to look good in that start. There's very few no-hitters where you're like, man, this guy looks terrible. Yeah. I mean, occasionally, I guess that's possible if a guy walks like five hitters and still gets a no-hitter. I mean, maybe, but yeah, I mean, he looked fine. His changeup was working. I'm not convinced Blanco's really anything outside of a deeper league. Like in deeper leagues, like a 15-team mixed league, okay, sure, give him a chance. But in like a 12-team mixed league or shallower, I'd have to see more. I mean, maybe, but he's never real. I mean, what's he, 30 years old, and he's never really put together anything before. So I don't know. I mean, can he throw 35% changes? I mean, he threw a lot of change-ups. It worked, obviously, but I don't know if that's really going to be a success, a sign of success for future starts. So I don't know. I'm not really convinced on Ronel Blanco.
Yeah, I tried to put as positive a spin on that one as I could, Gray. I mean, he's the bottom of this list so far, right? Like, you're taking Cody Bradford over him. And then obviously that's what we talked about before that.
Yeah.
All right, moving on is Paul Blackburn, 13 innings this season, no earned runs, 0.54 WHIP, 7 strikeouts, 1 walk. I mean, Paul Blackburn is, I mean, I feel like he's the guy, kind of what we were just talking about with like what we expect Brady Singer to end up like in the, Jordan Montgomery type of type of mold. I mean, that feels like Blackburn, except we haven't seen his ERA be under 4 at any given point.
Yeah, it's also Blackburn's. I mean, he has 7 strikeouts in 13 innings so far through 2 games. I mean, I don't know. I mean, it's a small sample size, obviously. If he can get his strikeouts back from like last year, where he had decent strikeouts last year, and then if he keeps the newfound control, I mean, I guess there's an avenue here for him to be Chris Bassett, Jordan Montgomery type, where he's like a safe number 3-4 like that. There's an avenue to get there for him, but I don't think he's there yet.
Yeah, I don't think he's there yet, but I think that's the value that you're looking to get out of him. I've always kind of liked Paul Blackburn as a streamer. I don't necessarily love rostering him all year round, but as a streamer, you could definitely do worse. He's had Cleveland and at Detroit, so I mean, you can see why you would have started him in both of those. And honestly, Gray, with all the pitching going down, just if you can just stay healthy, I don't really care at this point. Just if you just pitch for me, that'd be great.
Yeah, you'll be a top 40 starter this year because there's only going to be 40 starters who stay healthy. So
pitch more than 65 innings. Yeah, it's gonna be a fun one. Up next is Garrett Crochet, 13 innings, 2 earned run, 1.38 ERA, 0.69 WHIP. He has 16 strikeouts and only 1 walk. He is mixing in a cutter on top of just kind of the fact that the league doesn't necessarily know him that well yet. Where are you at on Garrett Crochet?
Yeah, I think he's the biggest breakout as of right now, which is sad because it's on the White Sox. So no one wants to watch the White Sox. So it's like, oh, I have Crochet, but I'm not gonna watch the White Sox. Okay, that's not gonna happen. I think he's like maybe. Yeah, I mean, maybe Detmers potentially. Detmers has burned us so many times before, but Crochet's numbers look like the best out of all the guys we've mentioned. Like Crochet looks like he is potentially on the avenue of heading to be like an ace, and like what we saw from like Dylan Cease 2 years ago from the White Sox. Like Crochet looks like he's breaking out. There's a long way to go now before until we see it. But I think he's if I had to say, out of all these starters, Crochet looks like he is an ace right now.
Yeah, I mean, I think it's among these guys we talked about, he's the highest upside for sure. I mean, everything looks great on him. I think the only guy that maybe even fits in that discussion with him is maybe Brady Singer of the guys we've talked about. And that's really if Singer can somehow manage to keep up this K rate that he's shown. But Crochet, I mean, he's always pretty much been a high K guy, other than he had 12 and 2/3 innings last year in the majors. Not really going to hold that against him. Other than that, though, he's always been a high K guy. Maybe this is the year of relievers turned into starters, Gray, because they've all kind of gotten off to a great start here.
Yeah, maybe. I was thinking that with like the injuries, because like Reynaldo Lopez, Crochet, like I was thinking, and
Michael King,
Seth Lugo used to be a reliever. I was thinking that because like they have the fewest innings on their arm, so it's not that big of a stretch for me to think that is actually a good thing right now for like pitchers, if they're if they had minimum innings in previous years and now they're just starting to throw full seasons. Yeah, I mean, I thought that. I don't know. Maybe it could be.
Yeah, and I wonder if there's something to like the workload balance, to where a lot of these guys that are now coming back around to being starters this year were starters in the beginning of their as a prospect, and so maybe it's something like they've had the workload as a starter that they've had to manage, and they went to the bullpen where they could kind of let it go. but they understand how to pace themselves because they've been in both roles maybe better than, somebody who's only started their entire life and are just used to just gutting it the entire time. That could just be completely narrative driven, but I think there might be something in that with this kind of, again, the relievers turn to starters, which we're going to get to at least one more in this top 10. Not this next guy. Next guy is Marcus Stroman. He has 12 innings, no earned runs. He has an 0.83 whip, 10 Ks, 3 walks. I feel like we know what Stroman is, and he's not going to be an ERA guy. But
yeah, Stroman is like, he's like a robot for certain stats. Like if you look at his stat page, like it's kind of insane how similar every year, like year after year, he is exactly the same pitcher every year. The ERA fluctuates a little bit, but even that is so kind of similar. He looks like a 3.5 to 3.7 ERA guy with like a 7.7 ish K per 9. He's just the same pitcher every year. It's kind of crazy. I mean, he looks like, and also like, don't count on more than 140 innings.
Yeah, I mean, he's just who he is. Let's go ahead and move on. Next up is Shota Imanaga. He has one start. We are recording this Sunday morning before his second start. So if he goes out in his second start and blows up, then maybe he wouldn't be on this list. But for now, he is. He has 6 innings, no earned runs, 0.33 whip, 9 strikeouts, no walks. He looked really, really good in his first start, Gray, and he looked good all spring. Did we maybe underestimate what Shota can do?
Yeah, I was thinking that. I was like, because I watched his first start, and he looked excellent. Like he looked like an ace, and I was like, why were we thinking he wouldn't be like as good as Senga at least last year? Like he looked. I don't know. I think we did I think we underestimated him a bit. I don't know why, but he looked great. I mean, if I would be, I'd be surprised. Like right now, yeah, like we're recording this right before he goes out against the Dodgers. So, maybe his lack of command catches up to him today versus his first start. Even though he didn't walk anyone, he was kind of wild, but they were swinging at his
Rockies.
Yeah, it was the Rockies, right? Which is a good team to like, he was throwing a lot of pitches out of the zone and they were swinging. So, maybe he gets a little bit in trouble because of his wildness, but yeah, he looked great. We'll see. I don't know.
Yeah, well, we'll just monitor that one, but so far so good. I like what he did in his first start. Next up is Jordan Hicks, yet another reliever turned starter. 12 innings, 2 earned, 0.75 ERA, 0.75 whip, 11 strikeouts, 1 walk. Again, like the relievers turned starters, and Hicks has been very good.
Yeah, no, exactly. I think, Jordan Hicks is probably like he's one of my favorites on this list because I think it was like he was so good. Like he's shown he can be like solid as a starter, and he was so good with like command and still being able to strike guys out. Like I like, and a good park. I like Jordan Hicks a lot. I think probably above. I don't think he's above Crochet because Crochet looks like an ace, but Jordan Hicks looks like he could potentially be like a top 30, a top 40 to 30 starter. I think I like him a bit more than Brady Singer, to be honest. And probably Detmers after. And then the rest of the guys that we've talked about, I think are, they're, well, no, Shota. I think Shota, it'll be interesting to see how Shota does against the Dodgers, a patient team. But yeah, if I had to like, rank these for rest of the season, I'd probably say like, Hicks after Crochet, maybe. Singer's in there though. And then Shota as well. It's kind of hard to say. It's so early right now, but yeah, I think probably I would say Hicks, Crochet, Hicks, Singer, Shota, and that's only because of like sample size. We've only seen one start, and then Stroman, and then Detmers. I think, yeah, that makes sense. And Detmers could move up there, but we've seen Detmers be good and then so terrible so many times. Yeah, so we'll
I know, I know very much that game. I would agree with your order, and I think even if Shota comes out and has a nice start versus the Dodgers, I think he stays in the same spot, and the reason being, we've seen pretty much every time with Japanese pitchers when they come over their first season, even if they start really well, there's a struggle period at the end of the season where they haven't gone this long, they haven't thrown this many innings, they haven't used this baseball that we're using. So that's the only reason I would put him, kind of in the fourth and leave him there, even if a good start today. But I love what we've seen from him so far. 11 through 15, real quick. Zach Gallen, Frankie Montas, Tanner Houck, Nick Pivetta, and Michael Wacha. I mean, there's definitely some surprises in there, Gray. Do you want to touch on 11 through 15 real quick before we jump into some bullpens and waiver wire talk?
Montes has some of those. Montes has the issue of like his home park. It's it's really like it's not a great park. I was talking to a Frankie Montes Reds. I was talking to a Reds reporter in March, and after I took Andrew Abbott in a league, and they were like, yeah, I think just the home park alone knocks Abbott down, which I don't necessarily disagree with. I mean, the park is just so hard. Pivetta was good last year. I don't see the reason why he can't be good again this year. Maybe not top 15, but still, Pivetta was good. Like, he can be good again. Wacha has been good for a while now. For some reason, no one wants anything to do with Wacha. No one wants anything to do with Seth Lugo. Like, they're in a great park and they're solid. They're not going to be like great. I mean, they're obviously, back end fantasy starters, but still they can be valuable as back end fantasy stars. Tanner Houck is like, we'll see. I mean, it's too early to say with Houck.
Yeah, I would agree with that. I would say he's probably the least of this group that I would feel confident in 11 through 15. Because again, Pivetta's been good. It was good last year. Walker's been good for like 3 years running. We talked about him when we talked about pitchers. We don't get the hate necessarily. Gallen obviously is good. Montas, the home park, but we've seen him be good as well. So yeah, I think Tanner Houck's kind of the mystery one out of that. And I would put him last of those 11 through 15, but he probably still gets in above like the Ronel Blancos, the Cody Bradfords that we talked about in the first 1 through 10.
Shota just got out Mookie Betts, so we're good.
We already cursed Mookie Betts. Like the first out he's made all season.
we still got it, man.
All right, great. Let's talk some bullpens real quick. The Twins, they are kind of still in a adjustment period. I guess it's Griffin Jax, but Stephen O'Kurt got a save. Brock Stewart's in the mix. Is it Jackson O'Kurt that you want, or who are you looking at if you're looking for Twins saves?
It's Griffin Jax is the closer, but Baldelli he plays matchups, and if the heart of the order is coming up in the 8th inning, then he's going to throw Jax in the 8th inning. So it's just the way he manages. He's going to do that when Duran returns. He's going to do that with Duran too.
Yeah, and Kurt, if you're looking, if you're in deep leagues where second relievers are worthwhile, he is the lefty that's going to get those high leverage spots. So Stephen O'Kurt, you could actually add and maybe get a couple of random saves from him. Royals, James McArthur seems like the guy. Will Smith, Nick Anderson in the mix, but Nick Anderson had at least one really bad outing to begin the year. It feels like James McArthur for now, though.
Yeah, I mean, I don't know. Will Smith, James MacArthur. Yeah, I mean, maybe. I'm not really convinced that, outside of, yeah, I mean, MacArthur probably is worth grabbing in a 12-team mixed league just because of 12-team or any league, I guess. Any mixed league, James MacArthur is worth grabbing. Will Smith, he looks so cooked. I don't know if I'd really I don't know if I'd pick him up if he were available in my 12-team mixed league. Obviously, in a deeper league, you do what you got to do. But yeah, I mean, James MacArthur is the most interesting. I like John Schreiber a little bit, worthwhile, maybe, potentially. But yeah, Will Smith looks cooked. I wouldn't mess with him. I really
Yeah, Will
wouldn't.
Smith does look bad. I think John Schreiber is probably a solid call. He's the only one who hasn't really been beat up yet this year. So that could go in his favor. Nick Anderson is involved in there, but he's not a great start either. The A's, it seems like it's Mason Miller with Danny Jimenez being kind of the backup there for now. Is that how you're seeing that one?
Yeah, I think Mason Miller until he's injured.
Of course, we don't know when the A's actually get save opportunities, so how valuable that is. We'll see. The Nationals, Kyle Finnegan, he's been fine, but if he falters, Hunter Harvey is ready to take his spot.
Yeah, I think Hunter Harvey is probably worth rostering in all leagues, or at least in 12-team mixed leagues and deeper. Just on just for the Ks and the ratios and the potential for vulture saves and vulture wins, maybe the wins and the saves probably a little bit less possible because of the Nats aren't that great. But yeah, Hunter Harvey I think is probably worth rostering just because he's so good.
Yeah, and Kyle Finnegan is not, so that could definitely happen.
Right. That's true.
Over on the Blue Jays, Chad Green got his first save in like 4 years. Is it Chad Green? I mean, Yimi Garcia's there as well. I think those are the only two guys really worth looking at right now.
Yeah, I would say, Chad Green's not very good. Yimi isn't great either. Yeah, I mean, Chad Green, yeah, he used to be good. He hasn't been good for a while though. But yeah, and Yimi isn't really great either. I mean, I would guess, go with the guy who's got the save with Chad Green. I guess, grab him if you're really desperate. And Yimi, I guess if you're really desperate, you stash Yimi. I think right now it's still probably a committee. It's a committee with Yimi. It's a Yimi committee. No.
Yeah, it was close. It was good enough, Gray. I laughed a little bit.
All right.
All right, Gray. Let's move on to some waiver wire guys. Why don't you give the people some names to look at, and we'll get out of here.
Okay, yeah, sure. So Jared Walsh, remember him? remember him? So he got out of Anaheim, and that's always good. So he looks pretty good, and he's been playing more or less every day. They platoon him a little bit in Texas, but he's been hitting, playing well. Jared Trilillo, Pirates corner man, he looks really good. Not a lot has been made of him, but I'm kind of kicking myself because I dropped him in one league where it was a shallower league, so now I'm giving myself a pass. But yeah, I shouldn't have probably dropped him. Jared Trillo looks good. JJ Bleday looks like he's hitting in the middle of the A's lineup, which is that's something, right? No, it's not really. Michael Bush has been hitting. He's been looking okay. JD Davis, another A's player. He's been hitting in the A's middle of the A's lineup. Not a ton. Rowdy Tellez has been okay. It's still early. It's still early. But some of these guys have looked good for a grab. Will Benson, I think he's been, I don't know, maybe he hasn't been great, but I actually have, at this point, I'm still holding on to a lot of players that I drafted, or at least, I have, some hope for. So, there's still a lot of games to be played, but yeah, there's some hitters. You have any pitcher matchups coming up?
Yeah, so Kyle Mueller, he's not currently starting, but kind of working like Pivetta was last year, in and out. But he can get a rotation spot sooner rather than later, as they need somebody that can start and not get blown up. Kyle Gibson is at Arizona. He's been good to start the year. Jose Budo, the Mets signed Julio Teheran, but Budo could still get a rotation spot this week. They have a full slate of games, and I'm not sure if Teheran is ready yet. And even if Teheran's ready, we could see Budo get a rotation spot or a lot of long work. Drew Smiley, he could be put in the Cubs rotation with the loss of Steele. That seems pretty clear. Easy replacement. Javier Assad was also called up, so he's going to be involved as well, and he's had one good start already. Paul Blackburn, who we talked about, gets Washington, and Washington is not good. Graham Ashcraft is a 2-starter versus Milwaukee and at the White Sox, and Luis Heel is at Cleveland.
Nice.
So all guys you can look at potentially as streamers this week.
Okay.
All right. Well, if you have any specific questions, you can always find us on Twitter. I'm at RazBeaton. Gray is the owner of the at Razzball account. You can find us on youtube.com/Razzball Fantasy. The shows are posted there before they're thrown up on the site. So if you want to get the shows early, go subscribe out there and you'll get those. Rate, review, comment wherever you listen or watch us. That always helps. And until next week, Gray, good luck, and I'll talk to you later, bud.
All right, Lates.